you'll find that it's an incredibly well-designed thing. Paper has certain qualities to it you don't get anywhere else. You know this already. You know it, even if you don't know it, you know, at the top of your head, you know it instinctively. It has a grammar to the way that the pages go over. It has a feel to it. The covers that we do are very, very tactile. It has a smell, you know, the new magazine smell. Bloody gorgeous, right? It takes photography incredibly well. You can do typography in print that you can't do on the web or anywhere else. If you like kerning, print is where it's at. And who doesn't like kerning? Leading as well. Either way, left or right, up or down. In or out. But it's not very, very good for example, location stuff. If you want to do really good location stuff, or if you want to publish on an iPhone, you've got to do location stuff. This is what this does. An iPhone is a very good platform, and the qualities it has is it's personal to you, it's incredibly intimate, you know, you kiss it, it gets closer to your face than anybody but your lover. It knows who you are, it has location, it has live data, it has certain qualities to it. Doesn't do very well for pictures, doesn't do very well for the leading or the kerning or anything like that, but it's very, very good for location stuff. So if you want to publish your content across this, you've got to know about location. On an iPad, that has different things. Multi-touch, 10 fingers. Desktop web, full of links. Print hasn't got any links in it. Links on an iPhone, not so much use. All of these different platforms have different qualities to them. So if you're going to publish the same content across those different platforms, which you have to now, because the rest of the world has changed, then you have to start thinking about the content that you're making. And you have to start thinking about the original content, the uber content, the content, the bit that you sit down and sweat over, the writing. You have to think about crafting the whole thing so that it's usable across all of those platforms in a way that maximizes those platforms. Does that make sense? We have anybody that doesn't make sense to? It's far too late in the afternoon and you didn't expect me to ask you a question. Good. We'll go with it. Now, the sort of additional stuff that you need to have in your content is what we information scientists call metadata. Metadata, as you probably already know, is data about the data. A newspaper story, I'm going away from the microphone and it's freaking out the AV people. Sorry. Metadata is information about the story itself. So a byline is metadata. The date line is metadata. The copyright line is metadata. You already put those things in automatically. What budding does, and I'm not going to give you an advert for it, but I'm going to tell you what it does, and then you can go, oh, that's really clever, and eventually when we release it, you'll buy it. Right? It's kind of like an advert. What we do is we say the only people who can add in metadata properly are the authors themselves at point of writing. An awful lot of publishers say, oh yeah, you can retrofit stuff. You can take an old you can take a magazine, you can have somebody cut and paste all the content out of it, stick it in an iPhone app and get some intern to stick in all the additional stuff. It doesn't work. It doesn't scale, it's inaccurate, it introduces all sorts of possible errors. Factual errors when you're publishing are really bad. I hope you've been to your legal briefing. So we say all of these additional data has to be put in by the author. And what do I mean by additional data? I mean that every single piece that you write that names people, you have to start identifying those people. Every company that you name, you have to identify that company. Every place, you have to identify that place. And you have to identify that place or that company or that person or that subject matter or that object or that brand or whatever it is. You have to identify it in a way that the computer systems can understand. You have to actually write marked up stories from now on. Now those of you who've been writing blogs, for example, writing HTML, you're already used to marking up things. There's probably at least 2 generations of people who are quite happy to write angle bracket A space href equals, you know, open quotes, a link. People are very used to marking up their articles. What we're now saying is you're going to have to start marking up your original copy with pretty much everything that you have in it, identifying all of those things. Why do you have to do this? Well, for print, it makes no difference whatsoever. For print, you'll strip it out, it'll be printed on paper, stuck on the back of a truck, take to Smith's, sold, everybody's happy. But when you're publishing in the future across multiple digital platforms, all of that additional information is the stuff that the digital platforms will take to make the digital platforms worthwhile. If you end up working for Condé Nast, like I have done, and you end up working for GQ, and because it's a month with a Y in it, then you have to write an article about the best martini bars in London, because it's a thing that they do, then right now you can just name the bars, because it's only going to be printed on paper. Very soon, when they bring out their iPhone app, or their iPad app, or their Hologram 3000 app, or whatever it is, when you write that article, you've got to put in the address in a way that the app can read it. So that when I'm walking around the West End, when I'm walking around the West End and I want a martini, I can go boop, and I can find it on my phone in a way that the phone can tell me. If you start identifying the people, you can start building up social graphs of all the people you write about. If you start identifying companies, then the FT digital version can start doing all sorts of interesting analysis about all the articles it has in its archive. But without adding all that data into the system, at point of writing, and without being able to understand what this data means, and without being able to understand how this data is handled in the systems that are publishing it, then you won't be able to make compelling content for the platforms that you're writing for. And this is a big problem. Because for those of you who want to go into journalism, or want to go into publishing where you're publishing across multiple platforms, you're not competing with other people who are also publishing against multiple platforms. You're competing against people who specialize in the thing that you're publishing to. So if you're a magazine and you want to publish on an iPhone, you're not just competing with all the other magazines who are doing half-assed iPhone apps. You're competing with the people who are doing really good iPhone apps. And the same on an iPad, the same on a website. Most magazines' websites are rubbish, which is why they don't get read, because they're competing against people who only do websites. So, as I come to the end of my 15 minutes, I was asked to tell you whether or not you need digital skills. Yes, of course you need digital skills. Of course you do. But the digital skills you need going forward, and when I'm looking for staff for Wired, I'm looking for staff for Dangerous Precedent, I'm looking for staff for my creative, whatever it is I'm doing. If I'm looking to recruit people, I'm looking for people who understand the very fundamental itness of the things that we're publishing to. And they have to understand the differences between all of those platforms, and then understand how, when you write your original stuff, when you make the original content, you've got to have all of those things co-equal in your mind. 5 years ago, this wasn't a thing. 2 years ago, it wasn't a thing. Steve Jobs kind of broke the industry, but there you have it. If you want to do publishing from now on, and certainly from April the 3rd, which apart from being my birthday is when the iPad comes out, I have to get that in case somebody wants to send me chocolates. If you want to be doing publishing after April the 3rd, you're going to have to bear in mind that you're not just publishing to things which take copy and leave them there. You're now publishing in a totally digital world, and no matter how much the old publishing industry will, for the next couple of hours, say that everything's going to be fine, it's not. So, good luck everybody. Thank you very much.